Here are some news on the hour on Television Nigerian. I am Charles Ibe. Governors of the 36 states of the Federation will on Wednesday meet to, among others, consider the impact of the Executive Order 10 recently signed by President Muhammadu Buhari on states' finances. Most governors have expressed reservation about the executive order, which intended to give effect to the constitutional provisions of financial autonomy for state judiciary and legislature. The governors, upon meeting, would examine other pressing national issues at the teleconference meeting of the Nigeria Governors Forum, the ninth of such meetings since the COVID-19 pandemic. The forum spokesman Abdulrazak Bello Barakindo said in a statement that the meeting scheduled for 2 p.m. on May 27th will, like 8 others before it, have in attendance all the state governors via Microsoft Teams from their various states. The Federal Capital Territory Administration's Ministerial Enforcement Task Team on COVID-19 restrictions arrested 29 commercial motorcycle operators, popularly known as Okada riders, who were traveling in a truck from Lafia in Nasarawa State to Lagos on Tuesday at the AYA Bridge in Asokoro district of the FCT. According to the driver, Samaila Samia, the truck, which was carrying fine stones used for making marbles and tires, was loaded in Taraba State and heading to Lagos, but on getting to Lafia, he decided to pick the passengers after they pleaded to pay the sum of 2,000 naira. Addressing journalists at the Eagle Square, where those arrested were arraigned before a mobile court, chairman of the tax team, Eharu Atta, lamented that despite the series of arrests, prosecution and turning back of violators by the FCT administration, many persons are yet to fully comply with the presidential directive on interstate travel ban. The Lagos state government is working out modalities for resumption of schools after ongoing lockdown of some sectors in the state occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic. The government disclosed that it has already started meeting with officials of the Federal Ministry of Education to design guidelines that will be adopted before students could return to their classrooms. Commissioner for Education Folashade Adefisayo made this known while explaining government's plan for education at an online Cove Inspiration show. Adefisayo said the government, which also plans to recruit additional 2,000 teachers, was watching the behavior of COVID-19 to determine the next step to take, adding that government has concluded plans to employ at least 2,000 teachers in another few months to boost the standard of public education in the state, in addition to 1,000 teachers earlier recruited by the government. No fewer than 300 shops adjacent Obogonogo Market in Asaba Metropolis were gutted by an early morning fire on Tuesday. The incident left many traders in tears and goods worth millions were burnt. Although the fire was brought under control 4 hours later, many shops had been gutted, while cause of the fire, which gutted Ecolak Line A row of ramshackle shops housing provision shops, tailoring shops, livestock markets and foodstuffs, remains unknown. The Delta Fire Service had a hectic time curtailing the fire and were hampered by poor, ineffective equipment and lack of access road into the market. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the establishment of the first set of 12 TETFund Centers of Excellence, 2 in each of the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. The first set of institutions, which will focus on research in science-based disciplines, will be hosted by federal universities. The Director, Physical Infrastructure Development TETFund, Buhari Mikailu, said in a statement that those in state universities, polytechnics and colleges of education will follow in subsequent years. In a separate statement, the Director of Public Affairs TETFund, Ngoba Briggs, said the organization is also sponsoring simulation, research and training centers in colleges of medicine. She said the facilities would include the provision of molecular science laboratories with capacities for testing and diagnosis of COVID-19, Lassa fever, and related viral diseases. The federal government has threatened to dismiss officers caught leaking official documents on social media. The head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemieson, issued the threat in a circular dated May 22, 2020, with the title Unauthorized Circulation of Official Documents or Information on Social Media. Yemieson issued the threat barely a week after a query she issued the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Science and Technology, Dr. Mohammed Bello Umar, for allegedly buying what she described as uncompleted carcass building for the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in the sum of 7 billion naira, which became public knowledge. Yemieson had claimed that Umar superintended over the transaction for the purchase when he was still in the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. Officials of Anambra and Delta state governments met on Tuesday to agree and strategize on the barricading of Onitsha bridgehead as part of measures to ensure proper compliance to NCDC protocols on partial relaxation of lockdowns due to the spread of coronavirus disease. Secretary to the government of Anambra State, Professor Solochukwu Lobelu, and his Delta State counterpart, Chiedu Ebie, including commissioners of police of both states as well as task force teams from both states, participated in the meeting. At the end of the meeting, the two states agreed on a number of issues, including the shifting backwards of processing points within both states and the maintenance of definition of essential services as provided by the presidency. President Muhammadu Buhari had condoled with the government and people of Ogun State, as well as the family of Alhaji Liadi Orusholu, the chief imam of Egbaland, who passed away on Tuesday, aged 98. The president's condolence message was released by his special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, in Abuja on Tuesday. President Buhari saluted the life of piety and utmost submission to the will of the Almighty Allah, lived by the departed, who was also President General of the League of Imams and Alfas in Ogun State. He also charged all those who mourn the deceased to derive challenge from his devout life and seek to emulate the same. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's government was hit by his first resignation on Tuesday over controversy surrounding his top aide Dominic Cummings' cross-country trip during the coronavirus lockdown, undermining attempts by ministers to try and move on from the crisis which has dominated British politics for days. Dominic Ross, a minister for Scotland, quit in protest, adding that Cummings' interpretation of government's rules was not shared by the vast majority of the people. The resignation will pile more pressure on Cummings, who held an extraordinary press conference Monday to justify driving his wife and young son on a 425-kilometer trip from London to Durham in the northeast of England during the height of the coronavirus crisis. And that's the news on the hour on Television Nigerian. Thanks for watching. I am Charles Ibe.